How you guys doing today? We're back with another conversations with Lo, where I say we do one-on-one interviews with people who one inspire me and people who have been, just doing great things in the world and the community. And today we have Sharik Marshall, and he's definitely doing great things in the community, which he's done his entire life. He has over a decade of experience working with different nonprofit organization and hospital and food banks and nursing homes. He is currently the operations coordinator for Arm in Arm. He's a writer graduate from Paterson, New Jersey, now lives in Trenton. More he left the North Jersey to go to South Jersey, but great person. I've gotten to know him personally, worked with him personally, and he's always educating himself, always growing. So I wanted to just give him the opportunity to spotlight some of the great work he's done in the community and continues to do, and some of the plans he has for the future, and just for us to have a genuine, a nice conversation about nonprofit industry, because I currently work in nonprofit too, about, just some of our takeaways from working in nonprofit and what we think the industry as a whole is going. So without further ado, welcome Sharik Marshall.
Thanks so much, Christian. Definitely appreciate your time and that introduction. Was great. I don't usually get an introduction like that. um,
It's
and,
cool hearing the truth. It's cool hearing
right,
the truth come from someone else. Yeah.
right. It is for any reason, but I definitely appreciate, the platform. And, you like I said, you gave a great introduction, but my nonprofit experience, like you said, started out a lot when I was younger, in hospitals, nursing homes
Mhm.
and churches, being in those spaces and also being on the other side and needing, the social services and the help that these, platforms had to offer as well. Um, and that's a full circle story because I know now in the space that I am, the impact, 10 years, even you want to say my whole, half my life, in terms of being on the other side, about the impact, that it is, that one person, that you help, that one family that you help, in whatever facet you do nonprofit, it's about helping that person be more stable, them and their family, what they have going on. So, realizing, small things like that, when I, started out at a hospital because my mom worked there and, needed to do hours for school, but then also did hours in addition to that. Now it becoming more of a part of me and more of a habit, more of an understanding of why I'm doing this.
Yeah.
Um, and that transferred to nursing homes. I had a few cousins and aunts that worked there, and I transitioned there to help the people out, in that space. So, I got to have that had that experience with the older folks, and making those connections with them because they have a lot of experience, they have a lot of stories, and you really know that when you're, directly with them, and you're really willing to take from them and look at them as a human being and not someone who, might have a might have an issue or, you know, anything that's in their file, they're above that, regardless. And I kind of you don't realize all those things, right in the moment. You're a young kid and all that. But like I said, this is all for a circle, to what I do now. And in college, I was a Bonner Community Scholar,
Mhm.
and that's a community service scholarship program in which you have to complete 300 hours community service um, per semester, and it showed me a lot about the passion that now I felt turn more into purpose because a lot of things stick with you, whether it's sports, things you do creatively, things you do, you know, um, scholarly, and that stuck with me. The service aspect. I joined that club, that group, and I immediately, felt like it was a space I needed to be. It was one of the first things I got into, even prior to first semester of my freshman year in college. I was already kind of in the interview stages of getting into that program. So I knew that was one of the first, you know, things that I wanted to leave a footprint in and, have a long term, kind of go with that program. And those same networks led me, to where I am right now. and working with Arm in Arm now for 2 years. Yeah, 2 years. Last November.
Mhm.
And it's felt like longer because, as you know, a lot has happened within the last year, and it's caused a lot of platforms to transition,
Mhm.
to do things differently, especially in the nonprofit space when your mission, your drive is the people. So
Mhm.
now their needs, and how they get those needs, now need to shift. And that was a lot of the things that happened during the pandemic. Um, I mean, to this day, I'm still on that sort of schedule, that I was since last March,
Mhm.
because everything happened. And just been a great experience overall. I
Mhm.
would say, even being able to tell that story in the timeline, which I did, you know, it brings light, to the fact that we have purpose. Along the way, we might dabble into things and might not really know the significance or the bigger picture. But it takes time to really know yourself and reflect on what really you're passionate about and really you feel like your calling is. And I feel like the fact that I did that and was able to do that, when I was just doing service here and there, and failed to mention as well, have done service with kids as well before, have been involved in mentorship programs, with inner city high schoolers before, so things like that where I'm able also to see myself, you know, um, is where I feel like purpose lies. I feel like you see yourself, a lot, through other people and kind of the impact that you're getting. Like, hey, if somebody was doing this for me, I'll feel a certain type of way. I would feel way better off, and I feel like that's really where purpose lies.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's what I say to this day. My dream, is not nonprofits. And my friend's name. And I say that and my friends because I feel like when you start getting around like-minded individuals, start mixing the same passions and missions and things like that, and I've come across that as of live as lived lately, and it's putting pieces of the puzzle together that I feel like I don't like need to, because I have certain folks around, so it's making my dream even more clear. And I love that, and that's why I'm even more confident now to say, yeah, that's still a dream of mine. Nonprofits in my name, and my friend's name, and partnerships with my, with those who have the same, mentality about the community, and
Mhm.
building it up,
Yeah.
and that's kind of where, I feel like I am right now in that space.
Yeah, man. Thank you. And thank you for sharing that, man. Because I think you have a very interesting story because you're so young, but you've have such a wealth of experience in the industry. And to hear you explain that it comes from, it comes from passion. It comes from the fact that you were helped. It comes from the fact that when you help other people, you're seeing yourself in that. And I think, man, that's beautiful in a sense. And that shows me that it's bigger than just any type of recognition or any type of money that life can give you. It's something that's in your heart. And I think, I really appreciate you sharing that, man. And even as you were talking, there's a couple things I wanted to call out. You said something about like it was your calling. And what I've seen from a lot of people or listening to people is that not everyone's able to. Some people die before they're able to find out what their calling is, or not a lot of people know what that is. So for you, man, how did you kind of find out that nonprofit was your calling?
I feel like is that at that space where you feel most complete. You feel like where you're most needed.
Mm.
And I think for some people, like you said, that does take a while. For some people, they don't even get to see it, you know. But I think we all have it, And I feel like you said, some people like don't know or either ignore. But I feel like for me, it always lit me up, And I felt like, okay, if kind of to the same fact I brought up earlier, like if it's doing this for me, like so on the receiving end, I started to look more towards that. I start to look more towards, how gratifying people were, how it actually, impacted people long term, their reactions later on, a card here and there. Like, it's just smaller things, that did it for me, where I was like, like this is not just for me. I think that's where, you really find your purpose. Like when you kind of, and you kind of, not really more so that recognition, but more so like, that gratitude. I think it's more about that gratitude. Like, yo, I'm really thankful. Because in that way, I feel like behind that is that means you are a blessing to someone. And I feel like, and no matter in which way you do it, you could be athletic director. You could be a blessing to a whole team, and they could be the best student athletes. In that region, something like that can happen because, you bring that purpose, you bring that passion, and you get a light, from younger kids being great student athletes and then moving on to be better fathers and so forth. And that starts from, you just being a good old athletic director, and that's just an example, because I feel like in that same space, you could feel that way being a nonprofit. You're not the big politician making the bigger moves. You on the ground, you know. You,
Yeah.
you know, you on the ground getting to it, but you don't want seeing that immediate reaction though. You didn't want seeing that immediate gratitude though. It's all
Yeah.
about how you think about it. It's all about how you think about, that return. What you put out there is always gonna be a return. Everything has consequences and results from it. So it just depends how you look at it and how you take those. And I feel like I've learned to take those and um, really add those to my repertoire in terms of like, okay, no, yeah, I know I'm supposed to be doing this because of that. Like, yeah, no, that conversation, yeah, I'm supposed to be here. And I feel like it's just smaller things like that where I just check off. Like, yeah, it's for purpose. It's for purpose. And I feel like like, dude, I think we think so big when it comes to, purpose, passion, cause it's just so deep, you got it. But it's like, yo, it's honestly really the smaller things that you fall in love with yourself doing, how they make others feel.
Yeah, and I know you, and it's funny that you say that because I'm reading the Steve Harvey book. I think you read it too, right? The
Actually starting it, I'm
Okay,
about to
okay,
start
okay.
it.
So I read this, and you're saying sometimes people think that their passions are so big, but he said his goal and his passion and his gift in life was just simply being funny. It wasn't like something grand and big and like some, a paragraph worth of what his passion is or what his purpose in life was. It was to be funny. But from that gift of being funny and his purpose of being funny, he was able to do so much that that like he was on TV, he was a radio host, he wrote a book, he was host of a church. Like he's done so much all off of the strength of my purpose is to be funny. And I think I think it's right. It's cool to hear you say that, especially like I never thought about it too. Is like it's cool to be on the ground and seeing that. Because I remember when I worked with children as well, and it was like to see that even we used to do field days with some of the local schools and by my college, and just see how happy they were just to be on the campus, just
Right.
to work with us, and just see people who look just like them at a big nice college. It's like, oh, I want to be like that one day, and just to hear them say that was so like it made you feel good. Like, wow, I took my time on my day to help you, but like you helped me more than I'm helping you. I feel like, from little kids. So it's definitely a great, great, great experience, man.
Yeah, bro. And to your point of, I've been in a few of those, smaller programs, like little weekend things here and there, kind of the ones that you speak of, and specifically where it's almost like a day where you're almost like a brand ambassador for the campus or whatever. But like you said, it depends on how you look at it. Because I know people who also put in those positions who, oh, I gotta be here. Like you know those people,
Mhm.
but it's just like if you for a second just thought about it not being about you and took a look at the 25, 30 youth just smiling and being and enjoying themselves right now,
Yeah.
and you knowing that you are a part of that, even though to you, oh, why am I being here? It does a lot more for them,
Yeah.
and it makes it a lot your time a lot feel a lot more worth it. You know, don't you want to feel like, yo, my time is worth it being here? So like, yo, make your time worth it if you have to be somewhere and do things like,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah, I agree 100%. And something else that you said that was really, really interesting to me, because you were explaining how you see it, like I said before, you see yourself in other people. You know what I mean? And what that sounded like to me, correct me if I'm wrong, it sounded like you develop a sense of empathy. You develop a sense of empathy. So in that process, was there a point where you became aware, like, wow, like I'm really empathetic, or is it just something you feel like you had already before you started helping people? Like, what's your take on that?
I think it came from being on the other side. When I was younger, I think a lot starts in the youth, and I think the sooner that that maturity locks in or starts to kick in, you know, I feel like that maturity, almost feel like it's endless. You know, I feel like you can never, you know, get more mature. You can always get more mature, but you can never be, I think, at your most mature. You know, like you can always be maturing and growing. And I feel like, you know, even that at the start of that, you know, so I feel like some people, you know, they you know, their maturity starts to kind of really hit hard sooner. They're called to be a lot mature sooner than others. And I feel like I was in that space, you know, growing up. You know, in my household, you know, younger sister, looking after her most of the time, working mom, two jobs, certain spaces. I feel like I was called to be more mature and to look at things from a certain perspective. And I think that's when, um, you know, that really hit for me. That
Mhm.
is like, this is me, you know. And then, you know, to stop there, but add to that point, my mom always, you know, told us people are doing worse than you. You know, I grew up in the church.
Mhm.
You know, we were always taught to serve. And it wasn't, you know, hidden from me that, you know, people were doing worse,
Mhm.
whether it was the area I lived in or, you know, what we've seen or heard or, you know, witnessed. But I think it was that mixture, you know, of being on kind of almost both sides, you
Yeah.
know, that kind of like put me in that space of like, always, always like, yo, this could be me tomorrow. This could be me tomorrow. This could
Mhm.
be me tomorrow. You know, like, or not even, you know, not don't even hold it to tomorrow. This could be me in an hour, bro. You know, like, and I know it could sound a certain way, but nah, bro, it takes that, you know, type of, you know, mentality and skin. I feel like to be in a certain, you know, line of work like that, because it's not about you, bro. And you know, come across people who are in spaces a lot worse. And you know, you take things like, oh, it could be worse for granted. No,
No.
don't, because it's, yo, that next man is right there, yo, and you just walk past or, you know, not even know it every day doing what you do, but yo, that next man that you said just saying, oh, it could be worse, he right there, yeah, it's right there next to you. So it's just like, yo, I feel like it's always that. You know,
Yeah.
just like how they say, hey, yo, when you sleeping or when you chilling, somebody else working 10 times harder. It's that same thing about when you struggling and going through, bro.
Yeah.
Somebody going 10, 20 times worse. So I think, you know, like I said, just growing up, having that, you know, background of giving back, but then also being on the other side of, like I said, needing help and seeing it,
Mhm.
like, dang, you know, really built that in me to,
Yeah.
you know, really see myself in a lot of the people that I even speak to this day, man. Like, you know, it would be even, you know, I would be lying if I said there would be certain days where I'm like, man, come on, like, you know, but it's like everything I just said is what I think about.
Mm.
And I built myself to be able to think about it in a second, in a minute,
Yeah.
you know. I just don't hold that over anyone else.
Yeah. And something that I think I've realized as you're speaking, it sounds like you have a very high level of awareness. Not just self awareness, but also aware of what's going around you, because a lot of those things, you're right, might be overlooked. Like someone might say, oh, there's people having worse off situation than me, but not realize, I mean, if you just go right on Route 46, there's someone right there having a worse off than you are. But I do know, I know that growing up in inner cities, I mean, because I know for me, I think a realization I had in my life was I grew up in a lot of different inner cities. Even when I used to go visit my mom in Florida, in those inner cities, I realized I saw the same thing wherever I went, which gave me the awareness that, hey, it's not just me, it's not just my area. This is a problem. These different types of problems, something we all have, even in Allentown, Pennsylvania. And for you, I mean, do you think that self awareness came from growing up in Patterson, growing in other cities as well? Is that what you think, that awareness of, hey, I know for a fact there's people having worse off, and I know I have the ability to help. Did that stem from growing up in Patterson and things like that?
Yes, the environments that I have been in because of the background and community service and being that type of person has definitely built that because I've come across, like you said, cities that I lived in, even areas I'm around right now,
Mm.
being in college and going from place to place to do certain missions and partner for certain programs, going to War, Virginia, which statistics may say different right now. I don't don't fact check me, but at one point was the poorest place in America.
Wow.
Like War, West Virginia was poorest place in America. And to have that experience to go there and to almost feel like I was in a third world country, in terms of like, how they say they are, was life changing to me, I would say. And that was in college. Um, so all I did was enhance, kind of all the energy I already had and um, kind of the places I had in mind already that this is, serious and things like this happen and it could get worse because that was nowhere near War, West Virginia is nowhere near here, but we can still talk like we just said, and use it like, oh, it's the experience, is knowing that, this happens here in this way, and then maybe just be different because of the type of people, but these things happen. I've seen the poorest, Caucasian, people I've ever seen, that I would ever think, I would never see, but right here in America, so it's just like when you think that people say all poor people are minorities, things like that, like stuff like that it doesn't exist, like honestly, and especially when you get into demographics like we're talking about. So once you start really getting around and you really be starting to put yourself in these places and being present, because
Yeah.
that's the thing, you can go here and there and you could not be present, bro. You could
Mhm.
be right in the middle of a war area, right in the middle of you know yo, this is the area where they say people have no food, certain things like that, and you're just there, you know. But it's just like once you're present, you take into account what you're around and things like that.
Yeah.
It becomes a part of you, and I think that's ultimately what going to these places and having these experiences has done. Has become a part of me, and now I'm
Yeah.
able to be like, no matter what, you can't take that away, and I'm gonna have that you know, as a drive, to have that goal like I want because it's made me who I am for real, man. Like,
Yeah. And to your point, I remember when I was in college, I took a economics of poverty class, and the same thing you're saying. I think when you grow up, especially, I can't speak for other places, but inner cities in North Jersey, you think that maybe only minorities struggle. You know what I'm saying, and that the majority isn't struggling. But I remember in my economics of poverty class, they were looking at graphs and charts of welfare, and I saw that majority of American citizens, people in America on welfare were the majority. You know what I'm saying? We're Caucasians, the proper term, I'm not sure, but majority were on um, welfare. And to me, that was a shock, because it kind of it broke my paradigm of what I believed in.
Mm.
You know what I'm saying? Because where areas I grew up in, you only saw minorities living in that type of situation, or even to believe that people are living in even a worse situation. And hey, it's not just people who look like me. You know what I'm saying? Everyone in America struggles. You know what I'm saying? And you understand that the problem is a lot bigger than just minorities. That no, like we read a book called The Other Two Sides of America. You start to see, and I know Martin Luther King spoke about it before he passed. Like there's two sides of America. You know, there's Hollywood, there's wealthy, there's the middle class, but there's also, if you go to some rural areas, there's really some people who are struggling regardless of the color of their skin. You know, and like you're saying, I think having that self-awareness and like actually being in those places and really understanding what's going on helps you understand that, you know. And I feel like our generation is moving closer towards that than probably generations in the past, where we're more understanding and more open to helping as much as possible, you know.
I think it's to your point because we're more willing to, be exposed to it. I think you have more, students going abroad. If you do the numbers, if you looked at the numbers, probably in the last, couple decades, few decades or so than you would have beforehand. Things like that. Taking their experience and coming back here with it, and now, not like I said, not being able to take that out, but now wanting to, take action, and bring more awareness, and then you have, people who then, do things like go back, to those places and make differences, in which they learn all that stuff about. And like I said, I think it's a generational thing. Like you said, it's a generational thing. Um, because we're in that information age, man. We can't not know certain things, certain things are right at our fingertips. And I think we're a lot more curious. We're a lot more curious generation, a lot more risky, and I think technology and a lot of things that have been, arising, helps that. But I think that's just where we are. And I think that leads to, more of us, like I said, being aware and educated about this stuff and wanting to be present, you know, um, wanting to do a mission abroad, um, and stuff like that. So,
Yeah. So, and that's something else I wanted to get a little bit to with the interview is, you know, you have a long history of an experience working with nonprofits, and what I like is across different industries. It's not just one industry. Like myself, I've only worked, no, actually that's not true. I've worked in different industries in nonprofit as well. But from your experience and your opinion, what are some, I would say, strengths? What are some weaknesses I really wanted to get into as well of nonprofits where you feel like there needs to be innovation to just not just improve nonprofits in general that could help make it a better for everyone?
one thing that I have noticed within the last year or so is that there's been more partnerships.
Mhm.
There has been more awareness, whether it be because of the pandemic, COVID or not. Excuse me. My bigger thing is that I feel like it's going to be long term. And I think, for one, I think that's one thing that has to be essential, as a nonprofit. I feel like as a nonprofit, if you're not in somewhat way or form, like partnering, I feel like you're missing out, because I feel like with partnering, you also realize different needs. I feel like we nowadays, we heard about certain businesses shifting their needs to hand sanitizer, face masks, and things like that. So that concept in a nonprofit space to begin with, you're already expanding, what you can offer.
Mm,
You're already expanding the dollars you can have coming in. And
mm,
I know that from being in this space, where we, you know, dealing with food, dealing with housing, dealing with workforce, dealing with, you know, license stuff, dealing with, clothing, just things like, you start to understand that. And a bigger thing too is, realizing that it's not just one thing, that a family, has to worry about. You can even go, to personal perspective and think about your life. It wasn't probably one thing you had to worry about every day. It wasn't just food. It wasn't just the bills you might have to worry about. You know, it wasn't, just the house. It was just like we all need to be stable. So
Yeah.
I feel like partnering and having a mission that, enables everyone to kind of be stable, I feel like should be essential for nonprofits because you optimize, what you have to offer. I feel like yeah, you can centralize on, offering, a technical service, right? That benefits, certain demographics. But that why does it have to stop there?
Mm.
Like how those people eating around that area? You get me? And it's like
Yeah.
that might not even have to be full fledged. You add that to your repertoire as an agency, but why not partner?
Yeah.
In your area.
So what do you feel like leads to not only lack of partnership, but like a lack of innovation, like a lack of, because it sounds like from what you're saying, there's a hesitant to change in a sense. What do you think leads to that? Like for instance, when a for-profit company, when a company or business might see that, hey, this is going to enhance the business, bring them more revenue stream to change. It's a very quick, easy decision. But
Right.
what in nonprofit you think has slowed that down? Has not led to it growing as maybe as fast as it could.
I feel like actual, tracking, if we're being technical, I feel like and this is from my experience, I feel like better tracking methods, moving ahead because, we are in the space of, servicing people, with certain needs. So I feel like, tracking leads to, data leads to, okay, now we know what more needs to be needed. And like I said, that kind of just puts you in the space to optimize more of, what you have going on and the people around you. Because one thing we know is that, relationships are about building trust, whether you're in a consulting space, business space, corporate space, nonprofit, you want to build trust with people who are involved with you. And that also is in the nonprofit. So you build that trust with these people, you realize more about them, so I think, that kind of just optimizes, your efforts, and I think what stops that is the fact that, certain nonprofits, like I said, maybe get too locked into we're doing this, we're doing that, we just do this, we just do that. And granted, if you're going to be that way, you know, I almost do this like, refer. We refer with everything else, so at least be a resource, if you can't provide the service. I think, like I said, to answer your question, with like an answer, I think that would be it. Kind of just that single, that single center, kind of initiative. Um, I feel like if you optimize that, think about a lot more. You could kind of just, grab onto others, and I think having more of that business mindset,
Mm-hmm.
as well. I feel like if you have more of that business mindset, you'll be more willing, to build trust, where it's really needed to get, what you need, for your organization to then and get that, to the people in which you serve. Because I realized it's still about building relationships in one of the spaces, So, I think if you take things like that and you put them together, well, like, oh, okay, well, like, how else am I going to partner if I don't build relationships?
Exactly.
So I think the key is to really building those long-term relationships, honestly, in a nonprofit world, as a, like literally as someone corporate or business, or like how a Facebook will link with the Google, like literally, minds like that, in the nonprofit space, I think can have things even, the things I feel like that space can do, with the many people that are passionate about it, is endless. You know, I think it's just like I said to your question, like, you know, putting that mindset almost of a business to, you know, that nonprofit. Like, okay, I'm providing this, you know, not for profit, but you know, my what I do can still be, you know, of a business mind, of a long term mind, of a, you know,
Yeah. Yeah. So,
because
what are you saying? Continue.
I was saying, as a business, you want to build revenue, you want to build all those things. You
Yeah.
know, it's just the same, it should be the same shift, you know, for nonprofit. And I feel like if I don't think anyone who's doing, bro, I feel like anyone who's doing a regular 9 to 5, you can take your job and make a nonprofit. I don't that you get what I'm saying. I don't think there's nothing that you can say what you can think of, because I mean you do it for profit. What we say, private practice, things like that, right?
Yeah.
But it's just like, yo, so you know, that I guess that was just kind of a little extra, you know, sauce for you, but
Yeah. Now, thank you. We definitely appreciate it. Yeah.
that's just a little perspective. Like, it's that easy.
Hmm. So, with that being said, then what do you feel like have been some of your greatest takeaways from working in nonprofit for the past 10 years?
I would say definitely being able to scale impact.
I like that.
Um, I feel like that's really a buzzword, you know, nowadays.
Scale impact.
Um, but I've been, like I said, I'm able to know, you know, my impact, or the impact that, you know, us pulling up to a senior center with 300 bags, you know, of fresh produce, etc. I know that impact.
Mm.
I'm able to scale that. You know, that's gave me the confidence now to go and do bigger and better.
Mm.
You know, I think that's really one of the bigger things that this space has really allowed me to do, because I feel like I'm also able to be, you know, creative as well.
Mm.
You know, I think things kind of get foggy when you're not able to be creative, because you know you're sort of task oriented and kind of going by someone else's, you know, guideline all the time, not really with your creativity in mind.
Yeah.
I feel like I've been able to you know, be creative in this space as well, and you know, I'm able to really see my impact. I think it makes perfect sense, you
Yeah.
know, because it's like, how else will I be able to scale it? I can't scale it with the 50%, you know, that you're trying to, you know, kind of, or even like we 80/20. Let's do that. You know, I can't go off of, you know, that 80%, you know, that you constantly, you know, are trying to embed in me, but that 20%, like, you know, I need that creativity.
Yep.
You know, and I feel like the way you optimize those moments where you can be creative, you know, in a space like nonprofit, or even in other spaces where you kind of really be able to scale your impact. And I think I really do well of, you know, taking that 20% of the work that I do in the agency, and really being able to like want to see my impact and being able to scale that with the things that I do. And now every day I'm just like, yo, okay, work,
Yeah.
because I know I can scale, I can scale my day, you know, and I scale it by impact, you know, and
I
that's
like that. I like that. Actually, I wrote that down. Scale. That's the first time I've heard that phrase, scale impact. It's interesting because you hear so much about scaling businesses, but how are you measuring the impact you're having? That's interesting, man. Appreciate that.
no doubt, bro.
And
Appreciate you.
the last thing I really wanted to talk about, because I wrote it down from, you said it earlier, was that the associations you have in your life has really helped you create like a stronger sense of belief and kind of open up your vision to what's really possible. So like, how would you describe that like power of association?
I have something on my wall right now.
Uh-huh.
Um, Credited to John Maxwell, the great. Motivation is overrated. Environment means more.
Mm,
And I think
I like that.
that's powerful, because I feel like everything, you know, I spoke about was, you know, motivating is a motive behind it, but the environment, bro, means a lot. Uh, um, in terms of, we want to speak of the 9 to 5, a nonprofit. Arm and Arm is a wonderful place. Arm and Arm gives me that space to, activate the passions, activate the creativity. I understand the people around me, understand that they understand what we are called to do, in that space. Things like that, being on the same page, with certain things, being able to communicate. These are all the things that, yeah, you know, it may not always mean that everybody's top tier in exactly what they do, but we're a lot better off, because we had that association. We have certain, communicating tactics. We have certain ways that we work with each other. We have certain understandings, like those things that, we have individual passions that come together, and now we're able to fully, grasp the mission of the organ of the agency. And I think specifically in nonprofit, when you're doing things not for the dollar at all, I'm telling you right now, I mean, maybe different, but you don't really get into that for the dollar, man.
Yeah.
You don't get into that for the dollar. And I tell people that all the time. For me, it was environment. It was environment. I knew walking into Arm in Arm, I said, "Yo, I know my passion already is in this work. I don't need the work to show y'all." So it was almost like I went into it like, "Y'all got to show me that this is a space where I can thrive."
Hmm.
And that was just kind of my mindset with it. And it was so important when they met me halfway. The people, the mission, what we do, how things are ran, the openness, like I said, the communication. Again, those things, you know, help build everything that it is to be,
Yeah.
and it's built me in my experience. It goes into, that long 10-year experience, of community service and nonprofit. It's not that without that, without the people involved, without the people getting me to that, without the people to this day, that I'm, gaining knowledge from, and experiencing with. So it's just like that means a lot because I always had the motivation to be in the space. I have dreams to own space, so it's like, how can I not have the motivation already?
Yeah.
It's like, well, where are you gonna put me now, God? You know, and how am I gonna react? You know,
Wow.
so that's where that association hits hard because you almost have to seek it. You know, we're all meant to be somewhere, bro. But if you're not present, and that's the thing about being present. I was so present in the fact that like I wanted to be in a certain environment because I already had it in me.
Wow.
That it was almost like just checking things off, just almost like secondhand,
Wow.
because I already had the aura in me. Now it was just the fact that like, oh yeah, yeah. Now where can I be placed?
Wow.
I think
Yeah.
I think you could put that with anything, man. Just going out here searching for a job, just where you want to feel accepted. Like don't overlook that. Like you need that, and there might be more at that job for you, but you might just want that one small little thing to feel accepted.
Hmm.
To feel heard. To have that one person you could talk to, at work. You guys might change each other's lives, but people don't do that. People aren't present. People are going through the motions. I don't go to work thinking I'm here to go through the motions. I want to be present wherever I am because I am valuing my time if I'm there. What am I doing?
Yep.
And that's a whole nother conversation because if you don't even value that, then you can't even be present except what you're doing with your
Yeah.
time. So like I just think that it takes a certain kind of person, you know, um, to want to be in association as well, you know, because anyone can have the motive, but you have to want to put yourself in spaces to, be better and learn more and to be around all of that so that you can scale your impact, right? Scale,
Uh,
make a
I
bigger
love I
scale.
love how you I love how you ended it. Like that's it's important because I never even thought of it like anyone can have a motive. We all have motives, we all have reasons, but like how many of us are actually going to act on them and do something with them. So yeah, man, thank you. I mean, thank you for sharing, man. You share the wealth of knowledge that I know whoever listens to this is going to be blessed because not only did you share knowledge about nonprofit, but you also shared a lot about your mindset, man. And I can tell the way you go about and carry yourself out. You have a system that works for you and it's pushing you forward and you're helping push this organization forward and pushing your impact forward, man. So I really appreciate that. Like people are gonna hear this and take away a lot of things that not only can improve their nonprofit, but also improve their life. Because you spoke a lot about just your mindset and the way you think, and I think you articulate that really well, man. So I really appreciate you taking the time to sit down with me, man, and just share this and express yourself, man. And the last question, one more. I got one more for you, man. Before we close out, if you could I want to know, man, if you could change one thing about the world, one thing about the world, one impact that you could change and have on the world, the one thing, what would it be?
The way we think about money. Um, yeah, I think that could go a lot deeper, but that's what came to me because I almost feel like without money, like literally, like the concept, the physical of it, like take it all out from the beginning of time, whenever you want to start, take it all out. I think that changes a lot. I think that changes a lot. And yeah, you start bringing up stuff like, well, how are you ever gonna get this? And how is this ever gonna happen if there was no kind of exchange of goods that
Mhm.
all equals money? But it's like, see, but that's even that, like, like why is it what I have is better than yours?
Mhm.
And why do I want it if it's meant for you? Like, and you get me, like, and I think that's where I think money is exactly that sometimes. Depending on, like I said, depending on who what you are, how you think though, um, because I do have a goal to change, some financial, things in, my family's life. So I'm not one to say, we don't need it, all that stuff. But I'm saying, to answer your question, like if it was one thing could change, I think it would be kind of like just that, the human concept of money and object to object exchanged for
Mhm.
something that's almost priceless more times than not.
Wow.
But yeah, bro, that's something I brought up, with certain people, and I just think about, you know, because my whole thing about it is greed too, because you can't mention money without greed. There's no way.
Mhm.
It's no. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think you can't mention money without greed.
Mhm. It's interesting, man. That was again, even you the way you ended. That's interesting. That's an interesting takeaway. Something I remember I watched Alan Watts. I really like him a lot. But something he said was kind of along the lines of what you're saying is with money. It's interesting that, for instance, he was talking about construction. He goes, a construction project will stop if there's no money. But it's interesting that they're not stopping for what he called a real reason because all the material to build that building it's still there. The manpower to build the building is still there. But money is something fictional that man makes. It's paper, we print it. So we stop doing the real thing because the imaginary thing is no longer there.
Mm,
And when he explained that, it kind of along the lines of what you're saying that wow, it's not so much that money maybe in itself is bad, but like you're saying, the way we look at it and the concepts we have around it might be a little off. Man. So again, man, thank you for sharing all that, bro. I really appreciate this. I learned a lot. I took a wealth of notes, man. You can't really see here. Wealth of notes, man. I really
man,
appreciate
I'm on pad two, brother.
it.
Bro,
Yeah.
no problem anytime. Um, Christian is a great person, for those of you who've been following what he's been doing. If you're new to what he's been doing, he is not, the social guy in terms of the media and things like that, but he's a guy with a dream. He's a guy who wants to inspire others, and he does. And, he started off saying he has these interviews with people who inspire him, and he let you all know he definitely inspires me. I'm just looking forward, to continue to be a part, whatever you have going on. And I appreciate the platform, and the opportunity to speak on these things, bro.
Yeah. Appreciate that, man. Thanks, Sharik, man. And I really appreciate that. Those words mean a lot to me, brother.
No doubt
Um,
about
so,
anytime, bro.
yes, sir, man. Thank you guys. Thank you guys for tuning in and listening to us. Sharik, let them know where they could follow you on LinkedIn, Instagram, anything else you have, any other projects you want to mention.
I also have a podcast, the Greenhouse Podcast, the Greenhouse PO, all lowercase, all together on Instagram and Twitter. Um, Personally, I am Rick Marsh on Instagram, RIQMARSH, and you can check me out, check out the podcast and other things that I do. I write poetry as well, so tap in and you'll see it all.
Nice.
Thanks again, bro.
Yes, thank you guys, and appreciate you guys for listening. And we'll check back in soon.
Peace.